You stand in the shadowed barracks of ancient Sparta, the air thick with the musky sweat of young bodies pressed close, your adolescent skin prickling under the gaze of an older warrior whose calloused hands grip your shoulders with possessive intensity. The metallic tang of blood from recent training mingling with the sharp, acrid scent of arousal that no amount of discipline can fully suppress. As he whispers promises of mentorship while his breath, hot against your neck, reveals the true, forbidden hunger driving this ritual bond that society demands you embrace or face exile from the warrior elite. In this moment, you feel the weight of Sparta's unyielding laws pressing upon you, laws that twist personal desires into tools of state control, where what begins as guidance spirals into acts that blur the lines between affection and domination, acts hidden behind veils of honor, but reeking of exploitation and power imbalance. Shocking in their institutional acceptance, yet festering with unspoken traumas that echo through generations of hardened soldiers. The revelation strikes like a spear thrust. This is no mere training ground, but a crucible where sexual submission is forged into loyalty, where boys like you are molded not just for battle, but for intimate surrender to elders, a practice so embedded in Spartan culture that refusal means social death. Exposing the grotesque underbelly of a society idolized for strength, yet rotten with coerced intimacies that would horrify the modern world. Shifting from this visceral immersion, we must confront the broader canvas of Spartan sexuality, a tapestry woven with threads of militarism, eugenics, and taboo indulgences that subverted the norms even of their fellow Greeks, revealing a civilization where private acts were public mandates, designed to breed unbreakable warriors at the cost of individual humanity. Ancient Sparta, that legendary polis of iron-willed fighters, stood apart from the indulgent symposia of Athens or the philosophical debates of Thebes, its society engineered by the semi-mythical logger Lycurgus to prioritize communal strength over personal pleasure, yet paradoxically embedding sexual practices that were as shocking in their pragmatism as they were in their brutality. Practices that prioritized procreation and bonding through means that often veered into the exploitative and the grotesque. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. Now, let us plunge directly into the first shattering revelation, the institutionalized pederasty that permeated Spartan youth training, a system where older men, revered as Eristai, selected adolescent boys, the Eromenoi, not merely for mentorship, but for erotic relationships that blended education with sexual dominance, as attested by Plutarch in his Life of Lycurgus, where he describes how boys reaching puberty were favored with the society of lovers from among the reputable young men. These bonds enforced by the Agoge, Sparta's rigorous military education program that separated boys from their families at age 7 and thrust them into a world of scarcity, violence, and intimate male dependencies. Imagine the raw vulnerability of these youths, stripped of familial comforts, their bodies honed through grueling exercises under the relentless sun, only to find solace or subjugation in the arms of seasoned warriors who, under the guise of building character, initiated them into acts of physical intimacy that range from tender caresses to penetrative encounters. The air in those communal sleeping quarters heavy with the mingled odors of exertion and desire, were cries of pain from beatings, intermingled with suppressed moans of coerced pleasure, a practice so normalized that Xenophon, in his Constitution of the Lacedaemonians, felt compelled to deny its carnal aspects, claiming it was purely platonic to preserve Sparta's austere image. Yet contradicted by archaeological evidence of vases depicting older men fondling beardless youths, their erect members betraying the visceral reality beneath the propaganda. This pederasty was no aberration, but a cornerstone of Spartan militarism, designed to forge unbreakable bonds on the battlefield. Where lovers fought side by side, their erotic ties inspiring feats of bravery, lest one witness the other's disgrace, as Plato notes in his Symposium that no man would abandon his beloved in peril. Yet this romanticized view masks the psychological deterioration inflicted upon the Eromenoi, boys as young as 12 enduring the anatomical intrusions of men twice their age, their developing psyches scarred by the confusion of affection and authority, leading to a lifetime of internalized dominance that manifested in hypermasculine aggression or, in some cases, profound isolation from genuine emotional connections. Escalating from this foundational taboo, we encounter the eugenic imperatives that warped Spartan marital customs into something grotesquely utilitarian, where marriage was delayed for men until their 30s to ensure peak physical condition, but women were wed in their late teens, their unions preceded by a ritual so bizarre and humiliating that it shocked even the libertine Athenians. The bride's head shaved bald, her body clad in male attire and sandals, left alone in a dark room to await her groom, who sneaked from the barracks like a thief in the night, consummating the act swiftly before returning to his male comrades, as if heterosexual congress were a clandestine duty rather than a celebrated bond. The sensory assault of this wedding night defies modern comprehension. The bride's scalp raw and exposed under coarse fabric, the room dank with the smell of unwashed linens and flickering oil lamps, her husband's hurried approach reeking of barrack sweat and the faint metallic hint of blood from training wounds, their coupling brief and mechanical, devoid of foreplay or tenderness. A stark contrast to the prolonged intimacies of pederastic relationships, as suggested by George Devereux's interpretation that this cross-dressing eased the groom's transition from homosexual to heterosexual acts, his familiarity with male forms projected onto his disguised wife, yet fostering a psychological rift where women were seen as mere vessels for offspring. Their individuality effaced in the name of producing robust warriors. Contemporary observers like Aristotle decried this as fostering licentiousness among Spartan women, who, granted unusual freedoms such as athletic training in the nude, were accused of indulging in adulterous affairs with impunity. But the truth unveils a darker layer. Sparta's laws explicitly encouraged wife-sharing, where a husband could lend his spouse to another man deemed genetically superior, as Plutarch recounts that it was honorable for a man to share his wife if it meant stronger children. For the state, this polyandrous arrangement, sometimes resulting in households where multiple men claimed paternity, the children raised communally without regard for biological ties, a system that eroded familial bonds and instilled a collective paranoia about lineage, where jealousy festered beneath the surface of stoic acceptance. Delving deeper into this revelatory cascade, the homosexual undercurrents extended beyond pederasty into adult military life, with a homosocial barracks environment bred same-sex relations among equals, defying the Greek norm that frowned upon such egalitarianism as emasculating. Yet in Sparta, the intense proximity, men dining, sleeping, and fighting together, nurtured bonds that Xenophon hints at with discomfort, describing how lovers shared in each other's honor or disgrace, implying penetrative acts that bonded them as fiercely as any oath. The psychological ramifications profound, as these warriors, conditioned to view vulnerability as weakness, suppressed any tenderness, channeling it into battlefield fury that masked inner turmoil. Historical accounts like those in Plato's Laws affirming that homosexuality was universally practiced in Sparta, embedding it in rituals where anal intercourse, derided elsewhere, was a tool for dominance and unity. The graphic details preserved in fragments from comic poets reveal the extent. Spartan men mocked in Athenian plays for their fondness for sodomy, the act itself described with clinical precision. The receiver's position of submission, the penetrator's assertion of power, lubricated perhaps with olive oil whose pungent scent clung to skin long after. These encounters, not always consensual, but enforced by hierarchical pressures, leading to medical abnormalities such as anal fissures or chronic pain dismissed as badges of endurance. The societal consequence, a hyper-militarized culture where personal suffering fueled imperial ambitions, yet sowed seeds of internal decay as repressed traumas manifested in tyrannical behaviors toward helots and allies. Turning to the hidden suffering of Spartan women, whose public facade of strength concealed intimate failures, we uncover practices that blended empowerment with degradation. Trained from youth in gymnastics and wrestling, their bodies exposed in public exercises that scandalized other Greeks, as Euripides lambasts in his Andromache, accusing them of shamelessly baring thighs and mingling with men. Yet this physical liberty masked a reproductive tyranny where infertility was grounds for divorce or social ostracism. Women pressured into extramarital liaisons to prove their fertility, sometimes with multiple partners in a single night, the air thick with a mingled sense of exertion and copulation, their wounds treated as state property. Postpartum hemorrhages from repeated births ignored in favor of eugenic ideals. The psychological toll immense as mothers watched sons torn away at 7, their maternal bonds severed to forge emotionless killers. Historical records from Herodotus illuminate the royal dysfunctions that exemplified these norms, such as King Anaxandridas II, who took a second wife when his first proved barren, defying Spartan monogamy laws, yet justified by the need for heirs. This bigamous arrangement breeding court intrigues and jealousies that spilled into political assassinations. The intimate failures graphic, impotence rumored among aging kings, compensated by cuckoldry where younger warriors serve as queens, the offsprings. Paternity whispered in shadows, fostering a culture of suspicion that undermined the very unity pederasty aimed to build, the broader impact rippling through society as families fractured, children raised in a gauge ignorance of their true sires, perpetuating a cycle of identity crises and aggressive overcompensation. Escalating the horror, the exploitation of helots, Sparta's enslaved underclass, unveils a layer of sexual violence so pervasive it was codified into annual rituals like the Cryptia, where young Spartans, fresh from pederastic initiations, were sent to hunt and kill helots. But sources hint at prelude rapes, both male and female slaves subjected to anatomical violations that serve as rites of passage. The victims' cries echoing through olive groves heavy with the stench of fierce sweat and violation. These acts not mere excesses but deliberate terror tactics to maintain subjugation, as Brent D. Shaw's analyses suggest. The psychological deterioration among perpetrators profound, desensitizing them to empathy and embedding a sadistic streak that manifested in battlefield atrocities against enemies. Plutarch's accounts of helot humiliations, forced drunkenness followed by public mockery, extend to sexual degradations, where inebriated slaves were compelled into grotesque parodies of intercourse before Spartan audiences, the laughter masking the underlying revulsion and guilt, medical consequences ignored as venereal diseases spread unchecked through these coerced encounters. Syphilis-like symptoms festering in untreated wounds, the social fallout, a helot population seething with resentment, that erupted in revolts like the one in 464 BCE, where private abuses fueled public uprisings, nearly toppling the Spartan regime and exposing the fragility of a society built on intimate oppressions. In the realm of royal intimacies, the figure of King Augustus II emerges as a paradigm of the powerful figure's degradation, ascending the throne in 400 BCE amid whispers of physical deformity. Lame from birth, his public image of unyielding command hiding private dysfunctions rooted in Spartan sexual norms, his documented pederastic affair with a young Persian noble, as Xenophon obliquely references, evolving into a possessive attachment that clouded judgment, leading to diplomatic blunders where personal desires overrode state interests. The king's escalating paranoia about rivals coveting his Arimenos, manifesting in purges that weakened Sparta's alliances, his ultimate collapse at Mantinea in 362 BC, symbolizing how hidden erotic dependencies eroded leadership. The battlefield strewn with bodies, including those of lovers fighting futilely to protect him. Similarly, the tragic arc of Queen Gorgo, wife of Leonidas I, illustrates collateral damage from these practices. Renowned for her intellect, as Herodotus praises her deciphering of warnings before Thermopylae, yet trapped in a marriage where her husband, bound by Barrac's life, visited sporadically, their unions perfunctory and shadowed by his pederastic obligations. Gorgo's suspected infertility early on prompting rumors of cuckoldry, the psychological strain of maintaining a facade of strength while enduring isolation and potential betrayals leading to a stoic withdrawal, her influence waning as sons were agouge-bound, the hidden suffering a microcosm of Spartan women's plight, where empowerment masked profound emotional voids. As conditions worsened over time, Sparta's sexual mandates intensified under economic pressures, the declining citizen population, oliganthropia, forcing more aggressive eugenic measures. Men compelled to sire children on multiple women, as Aristotle critiques in his Politics, describing how laws allowed husbands to introduce other men into their household for breeding purposes. This desperate polyandry devolving into orgiastic excesses where boundaries blurred, the air fetid with the odors of multiple couplings in confined spaces, venereal infections proliferating amid ignorance of hygiene, leading to sterility epidemics that exacerbated the demographic crisis, paranoia surging as paternity disputes fueled vendettas, isolating families in webs of suspicion. Desperate remedies emerged, such as importing foreign bloodlines through coerced unions with captives, yet these only amplified dysfunctions, with hybrid offspring facing stigma, their mothers, often helot concubines, subjected to postpartum neglect, hemorrhages claiming lives in silence, the state's indifference breeding a culture of disposability where human connections frayed. Ultimate failures evident in Sparta's defeat at Leuctra in 371 BCE, where fractured loyalties from internal abuses contributed to military collapse. The once mighty phalanx shattered by Theban forces, ironically bolstered by their own homosexual sacred band. The final moments of Spartan hegemony came amid revelations at death's door, as autopsies of fallen kings exposed anatomical anomalies from lifetimes of excess, enlarged prostates from repeated sodomy, scarred tissues bearing witness to youthful submissions, as medical historians infer from skeletal remains showing pelvic traumas. The aftermath, a historical cover-up where later chroniclers like Polybius sanitized these truths to preserve Sparta's mythic austerity, yet preserved evidence in Plutarch's biographies and vase inscriptions whispers of the putrid realities, from festering wounds to psychological breakdowns documented in exiles' tales. Returning to that opening barracks scene, now transformed by our unearthed knowledge, you no longer stand as an innocent youth, but as a symbol of systemic violation, the musky air not just of sweat, but of generations' suppressed agonies. The warrior's grip, a chain linking public glory to private horrors, reminding us that power's facade often conceals humanity's basest frailties. A lesson echoing into modern times where leaders' hidden dysfunctions still sway destinies, leaving us with the haunting image of a Spartan boy, eyes wide in the dim light, his body yielding to tradition's merciless demands, an eternal testament to the tragedy where strength was forged in the fires of intimate destruction.